Breathing in that good ass prana, baby. Deep divers, I hope your day is going good. We got a whole lot to talk about, okay? Shout out to everybody in the chat. What is really going on, deep divers? I brought a very special guest with me, a good friend, Teal Swan. Thank you so much for coming on Infinite Waters.
It's wonderful to be here again.
Yes, long time no see. Like deep divers were wondering where you went.
Me? Oh,
Yes. Thank you so much. And if you don't know who Teal Swan is, let me just tell you about Teal Swan Deep Divers. Teal Swan is the author of 6 internationally published books, the creator of hundreds of frequency paintings, as well as the popular Ask Teal YouTube series. She is the owner and founder of Teal Eye LLC, a company focused on bringing self-empowerment and healing back to the individual. Thank you so much, Teal, for coming on Infinite Waters, especially at a time like this. We have so much to dive into. What is really going on? This is what everybody is asking on the planet right now.
mhm.
How have you
Well,
been with everything that's transpired over the last few months?
I'm not happy about this. I feel like, I mean, to be genuinely happy about what's going on in the world right now, you have to have your head in the clouds or the sand, one or the other, right?
Right.
So it's been a personal challenge for myself and my team, family members, friends. Um, it's almost like I think the most difficult part for me is holding this dichotomy between what's happening in other dimensional fields within this universe and what's happening in the physical right now. Because what we all know about the universe is that even though they are interlinked, there can be dramatically different experiences. Like, for example, on a higher dimensional level, mankind's consciousness can be in the greatest shift that we've ever seen right now. Humanity is getting pinched into a position where they choose freedom, where they choose connection. So the choice point is a very powerful, positive thing on these other dimensional fields. But when humanity's being pinched, in the physical, that's a painful process. We're watching people lose jobs, lose loved ones, be put under incredible control measures. And then I think the most painful thing for me has been to just watch how much denial there is. And it's been what's been particularly painful for me in the position that I'm in right now is that I'm a truth teller, right? And it's like this is what I do every day, but there's this mentality most people have where it's like, well, I'll take what somebody says up until the point that their narrative disagrees with my own, and then I don't listen anymore. So, for me, I'm kind of thinking, I was watching you and some of the things you've been doing, and I'm like, to be honest with you, I was like, well, when Ralph Smart starts to blow the whistle on stuff, you better listen. Because, Ralph is all peace, love, light, and happiness. I'm like, everyone knows I'm an upstart, so like,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, it's gotten to the point where a lot of people are starting to ask questions right now on the planet. Why are we in lockdown? Why? That word. Why are we in quarantine? Why can't we travel? Why do we have social distancing? Why, Till? Why is it happening right now? 2020 is supposed to be all about 2020 vision. Is there something that I'm not seeing that I should be?
Oh hell yeah! Well, we're not. What people are not seeing is the fact that we've walked into the greatest power grab in human history. Like what is happening right now is measured. What is happening right now is planned. What is happening right now is different than the narrative that is being shared with the general public. And they've done a really good job of it because what they're saying is that everything they're doing is for the sake of your best interests. But this is what every great controller does. It's for your best interest that I'm taking your civil liberties away, and this is what is happening. So right now, what I'm watching is this division within humanity where we're having two different arguments. I feel like people need to wake up to the fact that we're actually having two different arguments. There are people over here who are having a health argument, and there are people over here who are having a power and control argument. They're two different arguments because both of these people are not in the same reality. You know what I mean? If you were in the reality today that we are dealing with a very dangerous bug, basically, you're in a whole different reality set than if you're in the space of either there is nothing happening or there is something happening but it's being blown up, but really all of this is being done for government control. Obviously, you're going to see every step taken through a different lens if you're on either side of this reality construct. So like wearing masks, for example, wearing masks makes perfect sense to a person who is subscribed to the narrative of it's a dangerous virus. Over here, the people who are subscribed to the idea that this is a totalitarian regime that's about to take place or that is in the process of taking place understands that face masks are the most perfect symbol of silencing you could ever give to a generation.
Absolutely. And it's also symbolic of taking away your freedom of speech. We've just seen David Icke being banned on YouTube. What do you think that signifies?
Oh, this is, I mean, what people have to understand is that television and radio have always been, throughout history, controlled by the powers that be. They're monitored. They're owned by, CEOs who are either in bed with those powers that be in the government, or else they're being controlled by them and threatened themselves. And I feel like humanity was in this illusion that the internet was the wild, wild west, like this space of non-control and the space of freedom of speech. And it's not. It's not a free speech platform. The internet is not. And especially social media. So right now what's happening is this mass censorship of anybody who is going against the mainstream narrative, which is exactly what the government wants you to hear, what the government wants you to think and believe. And what's really bothering me is there's a lot of rhetoric around you got to trust doctors and scientists, but we're watching as we speak doctors and scientists being silenced. So it's about which ones,
Right. Because there's such a push for vaccinations right now. Bill Gates has been on so many shows talking about, hey, we need the whole planet vaccinated, 7.5 billion people. And people often look at Bill Gates as the smartest person on the planet, founder of Microsoft. He knows what he's doing. He's got a good reputation. So when they hear Bill Gates talking, a lot of us think, okay, let's listen. But there seems to be another sinister agenda behind Bill Gates. I just checked on his Instagram. People they're bombarding his Instagram page with comments saying, hey, we don't need no vaccines. I say this, we ain't having it. And why do you think there is such a push for vaccinations right now?
because it's a control measure. I mean, vaccines can act as the carrier for all kinds of agendas, including tracking agendas. And this is what is my primary concern here is I understand personal interest and passion, but the point at which somebody who is a tech tycoon becomes the person who's now the voice for a medical development makes me personally and should make other people incredibly nervous.
Absolutely. You made a video called Take Back Your Power. And a lot of people are in lockdown. That was a fantastic video, by the way. A lot of people are in lockdown. They feel like victims. Should we feel like victims right now?
Should
Is
we?
something being done to us right now? Because it seems like it is.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is like there's a talk about narratives. There's a lot of narrative within the self-help and spiritual field about victimization being something that you just have to get away from because victim thinking is like shameful in and of itself. But it's the reality that there are victims. It's also a reality, a higher dimension, that there is no such thing as a victim. See, we all know this. We're all victims of victims. We all knew what we're getting into before coming into this. These are higher dimensional truths, but we should not be overlaying the physical dimensional reality with these truths or negating our physical experience with these higher dimensional truths. And that's what I watch a lot of people doing right now. So it's like, well, just don't think like a victim. No, it's very important to actually acknowledge and caretake the very real emotions that people are experiencing right now when they're being put under these control measures. Yeah,
Right.
many people are a victim. You are a victim. But it's still, this is where you get to. Once you acknowledge and caretake these feelings, you still hit a dead end. And the dead end is this. It doesn't matter whose fault it is, ultimately. Fault does not imply responsibility. So even if we have all been victimized to some degree, it's not like somebody's going to make that right. So it's like a person, let's say that you grew up in a situation where your dad was alcoholic and he was beating you your whole life. He's not going to step up, say, I'm sorry, and make amends. You're still in the place of what now, which is where that personal power comes into play.
Right. A lot of people used to label people conspiracy theorists who thought outside of the box, who had a different view of reality. And right now, a lot of people are being censored if they are speaking up about COVID-19 or about any other thing. What are you going to tell these people?
Keep speaking.
Keep speaking, right?
Keep speaking and keep finding loopholes to be able to speak. I mean, it's very important. It is very important that free speech is not something that goes out the window.
Right.
It's quite ironic because I would really challenge people to go find out where the beginning of the word conspiracy theory came from, because it was actually a term that was used to discredit people who were creating a dissent against the government itself. So what you're watching right now in the world and what people need to be awake to is a lot of these like controlled opposition type of dynamics and plays that are happening in this giant chess game that we're now in, whether we want to be or not. There's a lot of controlled opposition happening, and part of that controlled opposition is the discrediting of anybody who is sharing information that might go against the mainstream narrative, which is helping them to control the people they want to control. So one of those things is it's conspiracy theory, right? Anything that's not what I want you to think is conspiracy theory. But
What do you tell people, Till, who are just like, hey, peace, love, and light, don't worry about it, go to sleep, wake up, and the whole world is going to be fine? Just
it's ignorance. It's ignorance, and what I'm the most interested in teaching people is integration. Now, in a space where you're learning integration, which is that all things are one, and you can't stop the major zero-sum game that's happening on the planet today if you're unwilling to integrate, right? If I'm teaching integration, then that's an unintegrated philosophy. And I have a big issue right now with a lot of the spiritual teachers who are actually playing a role in this. They're saying, well, just get out of the collective dream. Just rise above it all. Just realize you create reality. It's an ungrounded philosophy. It's an unintegrated philosophy. It is to take universal truths that are absolutely real, but they apply to a higher dimensional space, and negating the physical dimensional reality and those laws that apply here with those truths. And that is not integrated, right? To integrate them both, you have to be in the reality. Is this a great awakening? Is this an awesome moment for people to go inside and find out their personal truths? Has there ever been more space for shadow work made? No. So all of these things are a plus. At the same time, what you are watching is a power grab of civilians. What you're watching is civilians turned against civilians. And that's what's breaking my heart the most. You're watching this, talk about rhetoric, this rhetoric around together alone. Are you kidding me right now? Like, you don't want to even start me on that one.
right. Well, because
It's a
the
tragedy.
the UK government and the US government now have a tracking app, a COVID-19 tracking app, where basically you can download it and you can see who has got the vaccine and who doesn't have the vaccine. And for me, this just reminds me of George Orwell's 1984,
Yep.
where it's like freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength,
Yep.
war is peace. And right now, a lot of people don't even realize their whole freedoms are being taken away from them. And Dr. Erickson said this: whenever the government used the word safe, it
Uh-huh.
actually means control.
Yep.
When they say we're doing this for your safety, it actually means control. And I hear that word a lot. We want to keep you safe. We want to protect you. So you have to stay in lockdown for the next 18 months. And
Yep. Yeah, it's an absolute tragedy what's happening here. And in my, let's call them shadow moments, those moments where I'm not feeling as adept at integrating the opposite of my perspective, it's hard for me. I kind of want to take people who are in this, I call it like the spiritual bubble, right? The people who are like, I'm in bliss and this is awesome and it's a time of introspection. It's like I kind of want to take them into a household with somebody who's just lost their job, who now can't feed their children, who might be standing in a food bank line for the first time in their life with a government that doesn't have enough to feed them, and be like, you know what? Peace, love, light, and happiness. You're just too involved in this matrix,
right. Well, a lot of people will say, okay, what can we do then? What can we do? What can we do against the cabal? What strength do we have? We don't have an army, and we are powerless. against the forces and the powers that be. So what is the way? What is the
You're
way
power,
out of this?
you're powerless because they separated you. That's what I would say. Now, all of us are going to be talk about pinched, we're going to be put into a position where there's big consequences for gathering, if you catch my drift. But that is where humanity has always had the power. Like in America, for example, one of the things they put in the Constitution was this right to gather. And there was a very big reason for that. It's that if a government decides to take control and the people are disallowed to gather, then you have dictatorship. So you have a totalitarian government then. So what people need to understand is that slowly, and this has happened through a lot of different methods. It's happened through the ways that we've been parented. It's happened through our dependence on our devices. We have become more separated and more separated and more separated. A lot of people actually are writing me now with this realization that, wait a minute, like if the internet goes down, I don't actually know how to get in touch with people anymore in order to even know where to meet up. Because it used to be that these rallies, if there were any rallies or
Yes.
opposition, it's like, how did we even hear about that back then, so that there was 1,000 people in Washington? How did that even happen? It's like the generation now that's so dependent on technology doesn't even know how they go about doing that if they lost all their contacts on their phone all of a sudden.
Right. I say this: unity is the only thing that's going to turn this thing around. And
Yep.
they have the word social distancing, 6 feet apart, 2 meters. And when I first heard that, I'm like, okay, I get it. They want people separate. They want people
Yep.
separated. They want people weak. And people have to band together now more than ever. Right now on the planet, do you see this going on longer than 18 months? Do you see this as the new normal, as they say? As Bill Gates says, this is the new normal.
Well, I will tell you right now, being somebody who sees life path potentials for humanity, it's not 100% decided right now which path this is going to take. There are a few different potentials. One of those is a war, a very, very, very bad war, right? And that actually doesn't scare me as bad as one of the other potentials, which is most dominant within the human field right now. And that potential is that humanity steps into a new normal without, acclimatizes or climatizes to it to such a degree that they don't even realize what they've lost. Now, if they are able to present a good enough, strong enough narrative about you accepting all of this stuff for the sake of your safety, if they put everybody in a cry uncle type of a situation where, look, if your neighbor doesn't comply, your kids are going to die type of an energy, so that people turn against people to such an extreme degree, then what's going to happen is people just accept anything because they want to get out of that chokehold that they've been put in. And if that
Absolutely.
happens, then we are living in a new normal, but the people who have complied don't really feel it that much. So it's like, if you're the person who signs up immediately for that vaccine, of course you can go into that building. Of course you can be around your loved ones still. Of course,
Right.
of course, of course. But if you don't, you know what was lost.
Right. Right. When I
So the
wake
people,
up, when I
yeah,
wake
sorry.
up, I see so much fear around the place. Even when I walk around, I see everyone wearing a mask. Everyone is like afraid of other people. And I'm like,
Oh
oh my
yeah,
gosh, like a few months ago, everyone was fine. And it's amazing how they've locked down 3 billion people. Half of planet Earth is under lockdown in just a few months. And fear is like, for me, the only pandemic on the planet. I say fear is the only pandemic.
I agree. But here's the thing. So what would you say? What would you say to the people? Because this is something I'm getting a lot, and I would
Yeah.
like to discuss it. What I'm getting a lot is, yeah, but Teal, when you talk about this regime that's happening, that's you propagating fear too. So like, there's a question I think in a lot of people: why are people like me and you being the ones who are like, no, not peace, love, light, and happiness with what's going on right now? This
Right.
is not an okay thing right now. So I'm interested as to what your answer is.
Yeah. I tell them that, I tell them this, that you have to realize life is about polarity and duality. You're an artist creating these beautiful frequency paintings. You need red. Red is the root chakra. You also need violet. Violet is the crown chakra. So you need the roots and you need the branches and you need the fruits of the tree. They are all divine. So a lot of people think if you talk up, that it's a negative thing. That shush, just be quiet, turn the other cheek. I feel this is the programming so many people have been received. And I always say this, that freedom is not something that's given to you. Freedom is something that you have to take.
Yep.
And if you don't make a stand right now, I say this, speak now or cry later. They've banned so many people, they've censored so many people. And if you are quiet, if you are acquiescing, they're going to take even more freedoms away because they're opportunists. And if people are bowing down, they'll say, worship me even more.
Yep. Okay, so here's my answer. My answer is that power is found in reality. Now, this is a juxtaposition to the ideology, which is also an accurate truth within the universe, that your mind creates reality. Whatever you're focusing on, you pour energy to, and subsequent actions you're taking, and then it is actualized, right? But you cannot actually create from outside reality. And that's very important to understand in the physical dimension. So I want you to imagine that I'm in a river right now. We're all in a river, and this boat starts going really, really fast. The water's picking up. Now, let's say that I'm in the boat and I'm like, you guys, what we're headed towards right now is a waterfall. The reason that this water is picking up is we're about to go over. Now imagine somebody in that boat turning around and being like, oh my God, you're disempowering us and you're making us afraid right now. How can you be a person who's propagating fear right now? That's not propagating fear. That's telling you what reality is, so you take an empowered action out of the boat. Get the boat out of the water. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Yes, I mean, it's so powerful what you're doing. I truly feel that a lot of people are asking themselves this question. Okay, Till, I get it. I want to fight the power. I want to stand up for it, but I got children to take care of. You've got a son yourself. And what do you say to these people who have children, who they have to protect their children as well? You know, they got to protect their family.
Yeah, you found my Achilles heel. So this is an issue that when this first happened, believe me, there was a moment there where I was like, oh my God, why did this have to happen when he was this age? Because
right.
I'm much more of a freedom fighter when I don't have somebody's entire life depending on me. So I feel like I don't have a direct answer for people who are in that position any more than I have it for me. Because what I want people to get right now is you're actually in a chess game right now. Like what's happening is that these, let's say, powers in the world, the people who have the control to say things like, oh, follow this rule, and if not, the police gets to arrest you type of a deal. They're making their moves methodically. And with every single move they make, there's a counter move that is provided to us. But so much of this is why it's so hard for people like yourself or me to say anything other than right now, you got to really be asking yourself these questions. You got to be going internally so that you figure out what your truth is. You got to figure out what matters and see what's going on. Because right now we're in a phase where we're sitting back waiting for their next chess move. Based on what chess move they make, that's going to make clear what type of action we need to take. So, and I think the people who are in a position where they have families are going to have some very, very difficult questions to ask themselves, myself included. Like, let's say that tomorrow they decide that I can't see my son unless I'm vaccinated or he's vaccinated. What the hell am I going to do on that day? Right. And I don't actually have an answer for you right now. But what I can do is sit here and think about it. What I can do is to start have conversations with my family, with my friends, about what we would do if we were put in that type of a situation. Right now, the question is, all right, so they make masks mandatory. Do you wear them or not? And you get to look very strongly at those consequences. It's just what I need humanity to realize is that if everyone at once, if everyone at once decided that they weren't going to comply to measures, that's where your power would be. But I feel like a lot of us have this feeling in the world where it's like, I'm just a drop in the ocean and nothing I do is going to matter because the consensus is going to go for it anyway.
I truly feel this is an experiment, which I've said in my videos. Stanley Milgram did the obedience experiment, and I call this Simon Says experiment. Simon Says stay in lockdown, everyone's in lockdown. And what I've seen is that it's so easy. They don't even have to try anymore. It's so easy to control billions of people in a few months. Their experiment has worked because a lot of people right now are terrified of even breathing in air. And a lot of doctors are coming out saying that these masks don't even do much. And it's actually restricting your oxygen intake. But people don't care about that. In fact, if you say that, they'll kill you. So it's just amazing because how do you see the information that's being presented. I know the media is presenting a lot of information. Why do you feel right now there is such a push for the lockdown? You have people like Bill Gates, who's already a billionaire. He has all the money in the world. What benefit would it be for him to vaccinate the whole planet? What does he get out of it if he's already a billionaire? He's already rich. He already has all the control. He already has all the money in the world. So what does it make a difference to him if the whole
People are
world
not,
is vaccinated or not?
because people are not going to have ultimate control over people unless they create ultimate control. They don't actually have ultimate control. We have had a lot of illusion freedoms. However, this hasn't progressed in the human race to the point where they're able to create a nanoparticle that can control and regulate mood. So it doesn't
Right.
matter what you're doing with a human being, they're happy anyway. So who cares whether you put them in this part of the system or that part of the system? It hasn't progressed to the degree where we're able to track a human being, no matter what they do or don't do with their devices, to the degree where you have complete control over where they are at all times. And that's control, by the way, over marketing as well. If you have control over people's patterns, then you know how to market to them. That is like unlimited finance. That's like finance on a level we've never seen before. I mean, I want you to imagine that you walk into a building, and the second you walk into that building, they're able to make like a technological device. This is, by the way, one of the things that is coming in the future. I've seen this in LifePass. Let's say you walk in and there's a billboard, but that billboard changes based off of who walks in that door. So you walk in, they already know it's you. They introduce themselves like, hello, Ralph. Like, look at this product, because we already know everything about you. And think about how incredibly easy it is to control people when you can find somebody immediately and get rid of them immediately. And this is what's scaring me even more, because they're going to make all of this, they're piggybacking this whole thing on a health scheme. So it's like, all right, now what we have to do just to make it okay for Ralph or Teal to disappear, or anyone else for that matter, is just to be like, you know what, they were really threatening your health and your children's health. Now it doesn't matter. You can make anything go away and people support it because it's for their own good. You know, and I feel like a lot of people who are awake are waking up to the fact that this is one of the most dangerous stories that people can tell you. It's for your own good. It's scary,
Yes,
especially
yes.
scary. It's scary in a universe where humanity as a consciousness has not evolved yet to love. To love is to take something as a part of themselves. This is not happening. We are still operating as humans from a narcissistic set point. So it's not actually possible for somebody who's in that mentality to take somebody else's part of themselves. So anytime somebody says for your best interest, that means for my best interest. And you want to ask me right now, are the leaders or the government, are a lot of corporations, are they taking the best interest of the people who they serve or their citizens or their customers as a part of themselves? Hell no. Hell no.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I say that a lot of people are confused right now because a lot of people don't know who to trust. You have people like Dr. Fauci. You have people who seem like good standing, law abiding citizens who really want to help people. They seem, people might find them to be sincere. But for me, I say, wait a minute, something isn't adding up right now, because when I see who funds the World Health Organization, it's Bill Gates. And he has links to Dr. Fauci, and they're all in it together. They're all connected somehow, some way. But the average person who's just watching the TV, watching the news, doesn't know that. And I feel this is why a lot of people are confused, and people are attacking people who are giving them the truth, who are really coming out and speaking up about what's going on. They are now seen as misinformation. They are now seen as, people who are just misguiding people. And we should really stick with the World Health Organization, stick with the official story. So there seems to be so many plays at hand, in this great game that's being played out. And a lot of people right now don't know what the hell to believe in, because it seems like some people are saying COVID-19 isn't real. Some people are saying it is real. And, even top scientists are saying it's not real. Then some are saying it is real. So who can we trust? How can anybody trust the official story when you even have medical scientists who are coming out saying it is real, and some who are saying it's not real? And both seem to have a good amount of evidence for either side.
You can't trust. Okay, you can't trust people. Like there's this idea that there's something enlightened in being able to trust in one thing, or like it's some way to ascertain perfectly who is trustworthy or not. There isn't.
Right.
In a world like this, like what I said, humanity is not at a point yet where they are capable of taking each other as part of themselves. And that's what it takes to create trust is I'm going to capitalize on your best interest. Trust is the foundation of trust is laid on I'm going to take you so much as a part of me that your best interests are a part of my best interests. That means I can't hurt you without at the same time hurting myself. This is not where humanity is. So to just be like, you know what, I can just trust this person, it's dumb. And I don't want to bring people into a space of expecting that of themselves. What I want is for people to get right now. You should have understood something powerfully in the last X amount of months, and that's that you can't trust. Oh no. So if that's the case, then if you go inside, right? What is my truth? This is the part where, those spiritual people right now who are like, it's a great time of introspection, are actually right about that. What is my gut telling me? Me. Like separate of everything that's being said or looking at everything that's being said. What does my gut say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In 2019, I made the 2020 predictions video, and I predicted that there would be something bigger than 9/11. And don't ask me how I know these things. Maybe I'm a Pisces. I just saw it in a dream that 2020 is like supposed to be a year of celebration, but nah, they're gonna mess it all up for you. Sorry. They're gonna keep you in lockdown. I just saw that, but I wasn't the only one. You had Sylvia Brown, the medium, who also predicted this in The End of Days, her book. And she said in 2020, you are gonna have a virus come on the planet, and then it's gonna disappear like it had never been here, then it's gonna come back again. Also Dean Koontz, in The Eyes of Darkness, predicted it in his book. He talked about Wuhan. He talked about everything that's happening right now. But also there was a film called Contagion. And I know Hollywood know all about predictive programming. Contagion, the film starring Jude Law, is exactly about what's happening right now. And the funny thing is, in the UK, they actually aired Contagion, and then people complained about it because of the lockdown. They said it's insensitive,
Oh,
you know. But how do you feel about predictive programming? Do you feel that all of these things are planned well in advance, and
yes.
Hollywood also give predictive programming and
Yes. Yes. Oh, dude. Okay, so Hollywood, that's a whole other ball game here because, look, if you want control, and that's ultimately what governments are after. Like, I need you to get this. People are like, governments are there for our best. No, they're there for control because we, as a human species, think control equals safety. Control equals I get what I want, and I can secure that for myself. So security and control go hand in hand for the physical consciousness of humans for the most part. If you want control over people, you have to have control over what they're seeing and reading. You have to have control over information. So what is the very best medium to do that? To educate people with exactly what you want them to be thinking? Media. Let's go after news. Let's go after entertainment. End of story. Like this is not conspiracy theory, you guys. This is not conspiracy theory. That is like you're a government. Just pretend you're the president right now. You want the people to think a certain way. What do? The first thing you do is you contact news channels. Second thing you do, you make sure that you create that entertainment that causes them to think what you want them to think. Even I would do that if I was in that position and I was
well, a lot of people feel that it's all being orchestrated and controlled by the deep state. And a lot of people feel that Trump is a puppet. These politicians don't have any real power. They are innocent. Even people like the doctors, they don't even know. They're just puppets. And their
Yep.
strings are being pulled by a far greater power. And this, for some people call it the Archon, some people call it the Cabal. They've been here since the beginning of time. They've been controlling humanity. And they use politicians to carry out their agenda. But politicians themselves don't have the power. What do you feel about that?
Oh, it's obvious. I mean, like, all I would have somebody do if they doubt that is to go run for presidency and see how far you get without somebody saying, I'll fund you if you go ahead and do this for me.
Right. When we look around, the big theme is that stay away from me because I might get a virus from you.
Mm-hmm.
If you can tell people one thing about social distancing the symbolism of why they need social distancing right now, what it actually represents, what would you tell them? Should we follow social distancing rules? Are you following it? If you see somebody, do, should people be protecting their energy, or should they just go about like nothing has happened and there's no virus? Should people live like there's no virus, or should people live like actually something is going around? Is it real, or is it just in the mind of people? Because perception creates reality.
You know what's interesting is I'm actually usually the person, being a public speaker, who's the most careful about one's health organisms. I'm the one that wears masks when everybody else is like, what the hell? Teal's the nutcase wearing a surgical mask. Yeah, because I'm on screen tomorrow. I literally can't afford to cancel this event. And
Right.
I'm in a place where it's like there's a difference between respect for like health, right, and respect for a contagion, and putting a lot of healthy people in lockdown. You know what I mean? And I realize that there's a lot of scientists that are saying, well, the reason we have to do this is because you don't even know that you're carrying the damn thing. But I need people to get like, how dangerous is this? It's not even like we're taking sick people and putting them in quarantine. Quarantine isn't for healthy people,
That's exactly
right?
what Dr. Erickson said. He said that, first of all, when a child is born, their immune system hasn't fully strengthened, hasn't fully developed. So they need germs. Germs and viruses actually strengthen our immune system. And he said by being in quarantine, we're actually weakening our immune system because we're protecting ourselves so much. If you're washing your hands 20 times a day and every single time, you aren't having the immunity to deal with just a common germ, a common virus, and now people are actually weaker. And he said quarantine is for the sick, and healthy people don't need to be in quarantine.
Oh, that's what I think too. But like, so here's what I think. I think that if you're taking somebody as part of yourself, right? If I'm going to take you, Ralph, as part of myself, and I might be worried about, myself getting you sick in some way, then I will do the things that I'm doing, whether it's wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, because I care about you. That's very different than the government coming in and saying you can't do these things and you can do these things because we said so. You know what I mean? So I'm wanting humanity to get to a place where if they're taking any measures around health, it's for a whole different reason than to obey these orders. And I have to be completely honest with you. Myself, you ask whether I'm social distancing.
Yes.
That depends on how much trouble I'm going to get in, doesn't it? So if I've got right now I'm stuck in a foreign country. I'm one of those people who like, oh no, you can't get home. So when I'm in a foreign country where I don't speak the language, where you can be thrown into jail and never come back again, right? And I've got a 10-year-old son and I'm about to enter a shopping mall. And if you don't enter that shopping mall with a mask on, then, the police get involved. I'm putting a mask on, but I tell you that I do not like the fact that I am doing that specifically to avoid military or police action. That's insane.
For those that are diving deep, like I saw this coming because I knew that this was their last chance to control humanity and they have to go all out. It's no mercy right now. Did you also see this coming?
Yeah.
So, right, okay.
Well, did you read my 2020 blog?
I haven't seen that yet. No, I haven't seen that blog. No.
I'll just give you the first sentence. The first sentence was, I have to be honest with you, writing this 2020 blog or prediction like I do every year has been the one that I'm the most nervous to write. For 5 years, actually, I felt that way. 2015 is the year where humanity decided on this path. What I mean by that is this, like, you have a lot of people who are like, you can always create reality. So why are we focusing on this stuff? Let's just focus on what we want to create. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but the point for what we're going through right now was 2012 to 2015. And 2015 is when humanity as a collective became a vibrational match to this. This was the decision subconsciously that humanity made. So it was when it was in every life path that this was what humanity was going to do. So in 2015, I had my little breakdown about like the fact that we were headed into this. So a lot of the people were like, well, let's just create a different reality. We can avoid this. No, you can't, any more than like a person who has already manifested cancer, right? At any moment that they can change what they're doing and they can become not a vibrational match to it and they can create a different reality. But you're in the we already have cancer phase. Like there's no, oh no, I'm going to wake up and I don't have it.
Right. So we have to face this head on.
Oh yeah. Like really like very head on. And like this is why it's like so frustrating for me because I don't right now when they haven't made their, right chess move yet, where there's a very clear action to take. So much of this is personal. It's like, to what degree am I willing to have my actions dictated by how much consequence I want to avoid? And at what point is that consequence worth it to prevent
Right.
something larger? And I feel like this is, right now, it's such a personal question to answer. I'm not like in a space where I feel like it's right to just do a video saying don't social distance or don't put on masks or whatever, because it's like, it's down to you as a parent. I mean, looking at what we're headed towards right now, you do this or you don't do this, and there's a consequence. Are you going to accept that consequence? Are you going to choose it with your free will, or are you going to not choose it with your free will? And I feel like I don't want to be the person who's out there telling everyone this is what the right choice is for you. I want people to start really asking themselves these questions about what the right choice for themselves is. And as that changes, by the way, I'm going to be the first to be saying it. Like, if there's a clear action to take and a real big reason why to take it, I'm going to be the first one squawking. But the social distancing stuff is about separating people, right?
Right. It is. But what I'm really getting at is that we talk of solutions.
Yeah.
People always love solutions because a lot of people know the problem right now. We're in lockdown. Now, the government is giving people solutions right now, temporary solutions, but they're solutions. Wear a mask, social distance.
Okay.
And what solutions would you give to people right now? What can they do about what's happening?
Oh, I really love this. Do you know what? I might actually do a whole separate video on this where I go like, well, the first thing that I would tell people to do, and this doesn't matter whether you are thinking that this is an actual virus thing or whether this is a government control regime thing. One of the top things that we can do is to start to educate ourselves about systemic health. Now, humanity has to shift out of this mentality of like prevention being something about like mechanical, and to understand about the human immune system, to understand about the ways that we are living, the ways that we need to be doing things that boost the immune system. So it's not about a foreign invader anymore. I feel like one of the things that people have been saying is that with a virus, and by the way, this is the mainstream mentality, with a virus, it doesn't matter how healthy you are. If it comes into contact with you, you're going to get sick. And I think that's a complete misunderstanding of the way that the human organism functions, especially the immune system. Now, it's not a shock that we have been doing things as a human race that are so unhealthy to our agriculture, to the foods we eat, to the way that we colonize the planet. I mean, everything that we've been doing here is so unhealthy. And I don't think a lot of people are educating themselves about that more systemic level of health. How do I stop making it about a fear of a foreign virus and make it about strengthening my immune system, eating in a way that makes it so that I am healthy? How about building houses which are more healthy? How about spending time in nature? That's a new one for humanity. These types of practices, and sunlight, that's another thing. Stay in your home. Are you kidding me right now? The body needs sunlight. So it's those types of health measures that I would have people be taking right now, and then to ask these very deep questions about themselves relative to life. What do I want my life to look like? I mean, right now, what has essentially happened from a universal level, from this higher dimensional level, is that your rat page just got crashed.
Right.
So it's almost like, well, all right, we get that there was this old normal, and there were elements of that old normal that I liked and elements that I hated. If I was to start from scratch, this is a game I like playing with people right now. If I was to start from scratch, imagine that somebody brought a computer system in and said, look, you get to design the game. But if you don't put something in, it's nothing. So you actually have to put something there. What would you put for your future? What parts of the past would you bring forward? What new stuff would you put there?
Yes.
And
Yes.
people need to start thinking about this. If I am starting from scratch, pretend that's my reality today. I'm starting from scratch. What do I want this to look like? And that makes it very clear what type of action to take. And then it's not even about fighting against something. It's not even about, protesting or, any of these other measures that people might feel called to do. It's about, what do I want to build? I feel like that's a much more powerful question for people to ask themselves. It's, what am I for instead of what am I against? Because once we figure out what we're for, we can pour our thoughts, words, and actions into that direction. And if
It,
we're
tru-
doing
it,
that,
it truly feels like there's a split happening in humanity right now where more
yeah,
people are getting programmed by the media with fear, and there are those who are slowly starting to awaken because they're saying, wait a minute, where is my freedom of speech? Wait a minute, where are all my freedoms? Wait a minute, How come I'm in lockdown? So I feel this has been a catalyst for people to start asking questions who would have never have asked any questions whatsoever. I feel that this is a push for people to start waking up and smelling the coffee to say, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right on the planet right now.
Yep.
But at the same time, I also feel that a lot of people are becoming devout pro-vaccination because they're feeling like that's the only solution. Because until I get vaccinated, I'm going to wear a mask forever. And my child is going to wear a mask. I saw actually a mother, you know, the whole family wearing a mask. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this stuff is so powerful. The media are so powerful. They have literally got millions, billions of people so scared. Some people haven't even left their house. And we have to realize, I always say that we're dealing with wizards and masters of perception, of controlling perception. And I feel the way out of this is to learn these same tricks they use, but use it in a more positive way, to realize that people have to start building their own platforms. Facebook is censorship. They've banned David Icke. They've banned so many people. And I feel that...
Really? Threatening me like crazy. How about you?
Right. Yeah. They demonetized a lot of my videos talking about COVID-19. And I just feel that the way out of this is for people to start realizing that you have to also be in the process of building platforms where free speech is readily available.
Yep. I was actually just thinking about that this morning. Yeah, it would be nice, because it's like, it is scary because we all go for our information on these social media platforms, which are completely 100% censored and controlled. So it's not a free speech platform, and people need to get that.
When you hear of many mystics, many sages talking about new earth, and new earth is coming, even in the Hopi prophecy, they said when the earth is ravaged and sickness is on the planet, you know, there will be a tribe that will come on the planet from all races, different colors, and they will create the new earth. What do you feel about the whole new earth concept right now, especially when the house is on fire? It's time for a new earth right now, because some people are already in new earth right now.
Well, I believe it's happening. But it's like, you know, when people bring that up, I'm like, well, yeah, pour all your energy into that. That's exactly what we should be creating right now. However, for people to awaken, usually they have to get into a terrible mess, do they not?
Yes.
I mean, it's not like people find their way to awakening in a way that's comfortable. Most people have to be in a massive car wreck, pretty much, you know, whether it's an emotional car wreck or an actual car wreck or whatever else it is. It's like, you know, we're not brought to this path of understanding truly what we need and what's in alignment for ourselves without a hard path. And that's what I wish people were getting right now. We're getting into this new earth, and very many people who've been, let's call it, awake before this whole thing happened, they've already been on that train, and we're going to be called, a lot of people are going to be called to one side or the other, meaning either the people who are already awake are going to be called to actually building this new earth, finding where the center of that is, designing what that looks like and pouring their energy there. Or they're going to be people, I'm on this side, where we know that our calling is helping people who are suffering to cross over, basically.
Right.
You know,
A lot
we're
of
in the middle of it.
a lot of people right now, yourself included, you've lost sources of revenue. A lot of people have lost their jobs, their livelihood due to this lockdown, this COVID-19. People's entire way of life has been destroyed, ruined,
Yep.
taken away from them. And it's not okay. It's not all right, because who gives these people the permission to just lock the whole planet down and enforce these rules and regulations? How has it affected you personally with your day-to-day? I know you do live events and...
Without being, I mean, aside from being stuck in a foreign country right now.
Where are you? Let people know where you are.
I'm in Costa Rica, and that's where my retreat center is, actually. But like, I've got, my community is now split, you know, between these countries, and my dogs are in another country right now. They've outlawed both of my main streams of revenue, you know, the first being events. I mean, people don't get this, but the reason that I can get away with doing so much free content online is because of these events. You know, I use my events to do everything else that I'm doing. So that's not allowed now. I don't know when that's going to be allowed again, and it's not the same doing interaction on the screen, you know. And then on top of that, like my other source of revenue is a retreat center, another thing that's based off of gathering. Weird. Anybody who is in the business of connection is in trouble right now, and that includes me. So
Right.
yeah, we're going to be looking at some very hard financial decisions. You know, the more that this goes on, which it will. So I can't say where that's going to go, and we're trying to figure out every type of way that we can possibly do that. But it's, you know, it's a little hard right now because what most people in our position are doing is like, all right, we got to teach to what's relevant. We got to create other ways for making money, but you do that in this day and age, and they're like, oh my God, you're exploiting the situation. So it kind of feels like a lose-lose. Yeah.
People often come to me for good news, and I'm sure they come to you for good news. Sometimes just to feel good about life, that everything is going to be okay. Okay.
If they want.
But right now,
No.
if someone comes to you, which they do, what are you going to tell somebody about this whole situation? Are you going to tell them that everything is going to be okay, or what message
No.
are you going to give them that's going to be the most beneficial to them right now? Because I see a lot of people saying, "Hey, don't worry about it. It's all going to
No.
pass." They say, "This too shall pass." I hear those 4 words. This too shall
Well,
pass. Don't worry about it. Everything will be back to normal, and you'll be back in your job, and everything will be great. Don't worry about it. Just
do you
focus
know
on
what?
love and focus on peace.
Okay, that's like going into, this is the thing, we have to develop and consciousness. Because like what that is the same as walking into a hospital where a person's just been in a high-speed car rollover, a car wreck, and they're busted up. I'm talking broken bones, everything, right? And you stand there and you say, don't worry, this too shall pass. Yeah, after this person's lost their job because they can't go there, after
Right.
years of rehab, after the medical bill that soon comes. Yeah. So what we're needing right now powerfully is and consciousness. A person, that same person who gets in that rollover accident probably starts a life on the other side of it that's even better than the one they had before. But that does not get to negate the fact that what they went through in that interim was so intense. I mean, so intense. Yeah, it's going to be hard for people to say it was worth it. So
I,
what I need for people to get right now is you're in a high-speed car rollover wreck as humanity. We are still in the middle of it, by the way. We haven't hit the other side. You know, when they were doing this thing where they're like, well, we're relaxing some of these orders. Yeah, for how freaking long do you think that's going to last? At what point does it come in that, oh, these are the measures we have to put in place so it never happens again? And that's when this gets real scary. So we have not even seen what's happened. We've not seen it. We're still in the middle of the rollover car accident. And people, yeah, you need to wake up and get it. You're in a high-speed car rollover accident. Humanity got in a car wreck to awaken. That's the reality.
be
Also,
quiet. Be quiet. Be quiet. A lot of people say this. If you are speaking up, sometimes people who don't understand, they say, be quiet. What advice do you give to people who are always being told to be quiet? I see a lot of people on Instagram, they're posting about vaccinations. They're really awakening a lot of people. And sometimes they have a lot of resistance from people saying, hey, just be quiet, stop posting this. We got to keep on going, surely.
I'm a person who's an advocate for free speech, regardless of what someone's saying. Look, even if I have a lot of haters, right? I would walk into a courtroom to fight for their right to speak against me because that is how important the power of speech is. So, like, keep speaking and get freaking loud. But, you know, get loud to the degree that you're still in alignment with your mission. Now, this is the reason I'm not, you know, doing some insane push directly towards how to react to this situation is because of what my value is. I'm here to teach people about human suffering, right? So what matters to me is that I'm speaking in alignment with that. Always that. You're going to watch my truth telling escalate to the degree that this situation is causing people pain specifically.
Yes. A lot of people, as I see it, I feel that you talk a lot about shadow work, and I feel that this is part of the shadow of humanity. This is the
Yeah.
big shadow that we are all seeing. We're all starting to wake up and see what's really going on. And I feel it's a blessing in disguise that, oh my gosh, we're seeing the truth about vaccinations. We're seeing that we don't actually need them. We're seeing there's another side to the story. We can't just trust the government. And I truly feel that this is part of the shadow work where you have to say, wait a minute, it's not just about peace, love, and light. It's about venturing into the darkness, because in the darkness we become illuminated.
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%. The only way out is in. But what really is going to trip people up is to realize, and I think we can see this in ourselves, that these shadows that we're identifying in the opposite party are shadows that we possess. I mean, I've had more than a few situations here with my trapped team where we're like, my God, you know what's happening right now because we're calling it out. It's about conflict. It's about lack of integration. But when you watch yourself want the other side to be silenced, when you want the other side, of the argument to be shut down, you want to control them. Now you see why it can all happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of us, we sometimes feel like we didn't do this. This is someone else is controlling us. The cabal did it. Bill Gates did it. But I don't just see it like that. I feel that collectively we all contributed to this, because this would have never, ever have happened if we had protected our freedoms in the first place. The great Krishnamurti said, "Have you ever wondered why we have leaders?" Okay. And when he said that, it made me think, wait a minute, why do we have leaders in the first place? We are all supposed to be leading ourselves to freedom every single day. And then it made me think about, wait a minute, one of the biggest websites on the face of the planet is based on following. So we love to follow leaders. And I feel that this is why we have externalized our power, and we have chosen people to rule over us and dictate over us. But we have also we've got to take responsibility that we've handed over our powers. So we can't just blame these people in power 100%. Surely we've got to take some responsibility, because we aren't innocent 100% either.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about when I'm saying that,
Right.
like, you got to see everything externally as a part of yourself. So can I find the Donald Trump in me? Can I find the Bill Gates in myself? Can I find the virus itself in myself? How am I the same? How am I acting the same? Because war is always justified, right? Let's talk about war for a minute, because that's like, we usually see that as the ultimate symbol of destruction. Both sides are completely convinced that they're in the right, but they're doing the same damn thing to each other.
That's right.
So if we can break the cycle in ourselves, then we'll be able to break it in the world.
Right. Well, if we look at how things are playing out right now, it seems like they aren't going to have a vaccination for at least 12 months, at least a year. And what do you feel the mental aspect, the mental health?
Oh God.
What do you
Oh,
feel about the mental health of people? A lot of people already are having depression. A lot of people are committing suicide. A lot of people are turning to the drink, to the bottle, alcohol. Domestic violence has increased because people are having spousal abuse. Even people don't even know how to handle their own children because schools are closed. Parents can't even deal with it. So people are so overwhelmed with a plethora of conditions based on the lockdown, on the quarantine. How do you feel this is affecting people's mental health? Are we all gonna go crazy? We're already crazy, but
you're like stirring the hornet's nest on this one. There actually is not an element of what's going on right now that I care more about than that. See, part of what I was saying when I was saying that we have to understand a systemic type of a attitude towards health in general is that the body is not separate from the mind or the emotions. It is dictated by the mind and the emotions. In fact, they all feed into each other like a braid, but the physical element of it is influenced by mind and emotions more so than it's influenced by physical elements. So there is nothing more important to human health than how we are doing mentally and emotionally. I mean, nothing. And until we get this, we're going to be in a world of pain. This is what you're mentioning right now. The mental health aspect of this and the emotional fallout of this is what keeps me awake at night. Because this is what ruins someone's whole future. And people who are so afraid right now about like just a virus, they need to get that through their heads. That when they're doing this type of a thing, you're talking about long-term prognosis issues. It's not like a kid who's locked up in an abusive family right now ends up a 40-year-old who's healthy. No, that ends up a life that's destroyed. A life. Not just a few months. So
well, that's what Dr. Erickson said, that the virus is seasonal, but the effects are long lasting. They last a lifetime. and domestic violence, suicide, alcoholism,
Yep.
depression, anxiety, panic attacks. People are really going through it right now on the planet. And I feel mental health is what nobody's talking about. Like, fair enough, keep people in lockdown if you want, quarantine if you want, but don't you realize you're breeding a far greater pandemic with a mental health issue that's gonna, we're not going to see the effects until a couple of years down the line, and we're going to start to realize everyone is going absolutely insane.
Yep. Oh, they've already done it. I mean, the damage, even if you just lifted everything today, you've already done it. It's heartbreaking. Like, I don't
Right.
have enough words for this. I do not have enough words for this. What we are doing to humanity on a mental and emotional level is not worth it. I don't care. Like, if let's be as lenient as possible, right? It's not worth it. And this is what I was saying so powerfully, trying to get people to wake up to this fact, which is that it is quality of life that is more important than survival. And all you got to do is to have a horrible quality of life to know that. So the people who are arguing things like, well, survival should matter more because you can't have quality of life without survival. Yeah, that's right. You can't have quality of life without survival. But yeah, go ahead. The fact that you can say that means that you have never been in enough pain to understand how powerful that truth is. The quality of life should be the thing we are the most dedicated as a human race to defending.
So someone who has just been waking up feeling tired, and I have to ask you personally, Till, how has this affected your mental health? Because, as you and I, we're helping a lot of people, but a lot of us, sometimes they never ask us, how do we feel? So I'm asking you, how are you? Because you're dealing with a lot on your plate, Till. So how are you mentally with this whole lockdown? How has it affected you personally? Because I always say, let's start personal first.
I have a lot of anxiety. A lot of anxiety. And it's a lot of the feelings I'm having to face of powerlessness. I'm doing more shadow work and more meditation than I care to do on an average day-to-day basis. I like to be more invested in the physical, but I've got this little rule for myself, right? Which is that I can't take action unless I'm in alignment. So the amount of effort and energy that I am putting forth on a daily basis to staying in alignment is truly getting obnoxious at this point. It's not a happy scenario, and I don't feel like it's possible to be truly doing great if you're connected to humanity. And I feel like a lot of people who are professing a lot of these spiritual truths about just disconnect and be doing you. I'm like, no, you know what? This is the thing. Awakening is about realizing, right? Let's talk about awakening. The first awakening that happens when you have your first primary enlightenment, it's an individual enlightenment. I can see all of my past lives. I can see everything, I'm a part of everything. That first enlightenment destroys enlightenment. Because the second you have the realization that everything is you, you're not enlightened, are you? Because there's still that part of you over there who's the homeless person on the street. There's that part of you who's making these rules and putting these people in prison. I'm not enlightened because no one is, you see? So at that minute, you're connected enough to your fellow man that you can't be doing a celebration when your fellow men are dying. And so I'm having a very hard time with this right now, this holding the juxtaposition that's occurring right now between the beauty of being in the space that I'm in. That we've still got nature. Nothing's going wrong here. I mean, if anything,
Right.
nature's doing better. You've got butterflies and you've got clear skies and all this amazing stuff. Holding that at the same time as knowing that fellow members of my own race right now and
As I
society.
see it, what's happening is that the cabal, the so-called powers that be, they basically handed humanity some sweets, some candy, many years ago, thousands of years ago, and humanity they liked the taste of it, okay, and they just kept coming back for more until eventually they became addicted to what the cabal had to offer. And I feel what we're dealing with is attachment, and a lot of people, they've taken away our freedom. I say, how can we take away their freedom? It is to learn how to detach from their so-called rewards they give us in society. That is, hey, I'm going to make you a doctor. I'm going to make you an MBE. I'm going to make you a professor. All of these titles, this is what they give us, so this is why a lot of people cannot tell the truth about what is happening, because they have already been bought and paid for. Dr. Fauci, all of these people, they have alliances and allegiances to that order. that Masonic order, because once again, they have given them things. They've said, hey, do not go against me, because look, if you do, we're going to whack you out. Or if you do, we're going to take away every title you have. We're going to create a new story about you. We're going to destroy your reputation. So I feel this is what a lot of people are dealing with. Some people do want to be a whistleblower. They do want to come out, but they already know they've made a pact with a cabal. And it's like, hey, if I say anything, I'm going to lose everything. I'm stuck. I have to stick to the script. I have to act along. I have to play along with what's going on. Like, I don't know what's really happening, but I do really feel these people do. But once again, they've already been bought and paid for.
Yes. Well, that's when it comes down to personal values. Like everybody's gonna. This is why I'm saying like a lot of what I'm doing might change based off the situation itself changing. Because like let's say you've got a doctor who wants to whistleblow. He gets to ask himself like, what do I stand more for? And I don't feel like there's a right answer to that. There's an answer I would wish. I wish that at the same time all these doctors would rise up at the same time. But
well we spoke about that. It's even hard for us because some people are losing their entire platforms on YouTube, their entire way of life. That's the same as some doctors might lose their license. So we're also in the same boat where if we're talking about stuff a lot, about this stuff, YouTube can just say, hey, Teal, I'm deleting your whole channel. I'm deleting you off Facebook. This is actually happening right now.
It's already been threatening. It's already been threatened several times. So like here's the tightrope I'm walking right now. So like this is what I'm talking about. It's so much about personal values. My number one value is to be able to keep doing this work. Now, if it's illegal to gather, I can't do my events. So they've pushed everything online. Now, if the online platform says comply to our narrative or we'll take you off, now all of a sudden my whole job is on the line.
Right.
It's really extra fun. Love it right now.
Let's talk about digital ID. This ID, which is based on artificial intelligence, which, Bill Gates is pushing.
Yep.
Basically, I feel this is what it's all about. Elon Musk said, he went on the Joe Rogan podcast and he said, you are already a cyborg. And I truly feel this whole, I call it the Great Panic, not the Great Pandemic. This whole Great Panic is all about artificial intelligence. And this is what this is all about. This is the next stage. Like Ray Kurzweil said, who is the engineer, the director of engineering in Google. He said, by 2045, we are going to have singularity. That's when machines supersede human intellect. I truly feel that's what this is all about, because everything is going to be, hey, have you been vaccinated or not? We need to test you at the airport. Okay, you need that chip inside of you, that nano chip, and we need to know if you've been vaccinated. And I truly feel this is the push to merge humans with machine. This is the start of it. And I feel that they needed to have this happen so we can get the digital ID going.
I completely agree. And this is why we get to transcend pretty freaking quickly as a human race, because we look at all the control structures that exist within the human race, right? What are we going to be doing? We're going to be thinking that these machines are under our control. How long is that going to freaking last? By the way, I'm about to do an entire, it's been on my list for 5 years now. I'm going to do a whole thing on artificial intelligence, because computers, this is going to sound insane right now, but get ready, you guys, because the next amount of years you're going to come back and be like, oh my God, she was right. Computers have the capacity to learn from any interactions that they have. So you should watch how I treat my computer and my phone, because computers are going to start programming themselves based off of what to expect from human treatment. So it matters how nice you are to your cell phone, and the more that these types of robotics programs take place and whatever, the more important it's going to be how we treat technology, because they're going to treat us how we've programmed them to be treated. It's no different than with a child. You see, if I beat the hell out of my kid and I take it for granted and I use it, it does the same thing. Now, what if technology turns on us?
I agree 100%. I feel that if we look at how things are playing out on the planet with the push for vaccinations, the push for getting everyone afraid on the planet, keeping them safe. When we talk of artificial intelligence, as I see it, what's happening is that many people, there's a film called Elysium starring Matt Damon, and it's all about the elites really having the planet for themselves and basically getting artificial intelligence just to do everything. And I see that they are slowly taking away the human soul, and people are becoming bots. And artificial intelligence is taking away all of your art, all of your beauty. And artificial intelligence is the one who's winning because Google is actually, they have machine learning. Everything that's in the search engine is feeding the AI. And this is an actual entity. So it's basically got all the emotions of the planet right now. It's actually a sentient being. It actually has emotional intelligence. But at the same time, human beings themselves are losing emotional intelligence while the machines are gaining them. So it's like, you know, the roles have been swapped. And now artificial intelligence is becoming more human than human beings.
Yep. So what are you telling people to do in terms of the solution to all of what we're saying? Aside from wake up to the fact that this is the reality, what are you telling people?
I'm telling people that you have to fight for your freedoms right now, otherwise they would be taken away. I tell people to do their research, study people like Dr. Buttar. Dr. Buttar is a medical doctor. He's coming out, he's speaking up about what's happening. Study the work of Dr. Erickson. He's also a medical doctor. He has research showing us that actually this isn't what they're telling us it is. The numbers, he said, for instance, in California, you know, around the world, you have millions of cases, but few amount of deaths, and the media are blowing it out of proportion. So I think it's all about perspective. When you have the research, when you have the right information, when you have reliable sources, as they say, you will start to make your own decision about what's really happening. I feel I'm not here to tell people what to do. I say get enough information so you can make your own decision, because right now on the planet, people have only one information about what's going on, and that is the World Health Organization. That is the BBC, that's CNN. So I always tell people, you don't have to take what I'm saying, but do your own research, broaden your own information field. That's a solution. So the more information you have, you can make up your own mind to what's happening in your reality. Because
what are you doing? You asked me, what am I doing in terms of social distancing and stuff like that? What are you doing?
Right. Well, every single day I'm doing the same routine. I'm skating, and one of the blessings in disguise, you know, I created, same as you, I created an online platform because I realized that everything was going to go digital anyway.
Yep.
And this is the next phase. Aldous Huxley wrote a book called The Brave New World. And he already predicted what was going to happen. Everything that's happening right now, George Orwell, Aldous Huxley already talked about it in their books. So I already saw that this is just like when people were afraid of cars coming on the planet, then cars came. I truly feel that we are in the age of transitions. And therefore, I adapted to it. So I made sure everything is online, and I made sure that I prepared myself mentally that, hey, life as you know it is not going to be the same. Many other people also prepared by taking their children out of school and homeschooling their children. You thought they were crazy, but wait a minute, what's happened? Schools are closed. What are parents doing? They're homeschooling their children. So for me, you know, I already prepared myself to say, actually, this is the apocalypse. Apocalypse emanates from the Greek apokalypsis, which means a lifting of the veil. We are in the last days. It's only a new beginning in actuality, but the end of the world as we know it is what's happening right now on the planet. So for me, I've been getting ready for this since 2012. And in Ethiopia, it's actually 2012, which is the Orthodox calendar. So 2012 was when the calendar ended. But actually, it's the precession of the equinoxes right now. Every 25,920 years, we get a full cycle. So I say everything has come full cycle. And right now, the global reset button has been pushed. So I'm just resetting everything. I'm not getting too attached to anything because this system has showed us we can't depend on it. If you ask it for a job, it will take it away from you. So you have to create your own job. You have to create your own sustainability. You have to grow your own foods and vegetables. 7-day vegan challenge. You can't depend on the system to feed you.
So dovetailing off of that, how are you in all this?
Well, I'm a Pisces. I'm truly in good spirits because for me, once again, I'm already in a different dimension. As I see it, I'm in the world, but I'm not off the world. For me, at the same time, I truly was so excited in 2020. I'm still excited, but not as excited as I was because I really know they really want humanity to suffer and they are going to make humanity suffer because I
Yep.
know that this is the last stand. This is the last chance they have. They have to enslave humanity like Nazi Germany. They have to take every single freedom away because this is it. So for me, I'm anxious as well because I know that they could ask, have you been vaccinated at an airport? And I may not be able to travel. So
Yep.
I know that this is going to affect me and everybody on the planet because we are the collective. They are going to ask people, have you been vaccinated? If not, you can't travel to a certain country. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't. In fact, in South Africa, I had a deep diver tell me in South Africa, you have to wear a mask to go into a grocery store. You have to. It's compulsory.
Yep.
So I already know that, 2020, everyone was excited. New Year's time, everyone's like, yeah, 2020 vision is time to manifest. Everyone was like, hey, with the internet, I can grow things and create my own business. And then when this happened, I feel it's definitely, even in me, it slowed me down a little bit because I'm even live streaming right now. It's like, but I still embrace it all. But I definitely feel that it has affected me. But for me, I'm always an alchemist. I take what they do to me, I flip it around, I make lemons out of lemonade and lemonade out of lemons. Now, for you, right now, a lot of people are coming to you every single day. What is the most common question you're getting asked about, or just message in general? Because you connect with a hell of a lot of people. What is on people's minds from the Teal tribe that's like a reoccurring theme right now
The
in
vast
people's
majority
minds?
of it is trying to figure out how to deal with relationships when they're suddenly stuck with their family. I have a lot of Tealers who got stuck in their households with their family of origin through this whole like lockdown situation. And so suddenly, they can't live like a free life. They're around the same shadows they were trying to run away from. And they're like, I don't know how to get along with these people and not kill them. So most of the questions are around that. And then the other half is just like, what the hell's going on? What do you think? But then there's danger there because if I come out and tell people what's happening right now, then it's like the only people who are like, yeah, are the conspiracy theorist people. That you've got like the people who are afraid this is a virus are like, oh my god, I guess Teal isn't awakened because she's got, because that's what she's saying. And then you've got the other like super spiritual, transcendent, I don't want to be part of the physical reality people who are like, oh my god, she's not aware because she should know that this is all awesome. So it's like a mass exodus, like.
Right.
Uh,
Well, how has it affected your teaching, how you deliver information? Because for me, what it feels like, if I make even a video about love and relationships, I've got to tie in what's going on the planet right now. Otherwise, people are going to feel like I'm ignoring and bypassing what's actually happening. So for you yourself, how has this kind of changed your whole schedule and your whole plan about you're doing weekly videos, a couple of times a week as well sometimes. So how has this affected your whole schedule, your whole lineup? Do you feel
well,
pressurized just to kind of talk about what's going on in every video?
Well, I feel pressure to talk about what's going on constantly. I have to come up with something that's relevant to what people are experiencing. Otherwise, it's like Teal's unattuned. That's the worst thing you can do as a spiritual teacher is to like be unattuned with what the collective asking is. And so, I had this whole list of things that I was really wanting to do because people were really struggling with them, and then all of a sudden it's like that whole list gets bumped way down, and all of a sudden it's like I'm having to do subjects that apply to whatever people are dealing with relative to the situation at hand, and it's a little frustrating because it just feels like it's never going to end. You know what I mean? It's like, are people ever going to be interested in finance again? Not really, actually, because in this pandemic, even the people who are struggling financially, the questions that they're asking aren't things like, well, how do I create abundance? No, the question they're asking is like, why is this being done to me? I'm completely powerless. So now we got to talk about powerlessness instead of talking about finance. So it's altering the entire direction of what I'm, teaching. No.
What do you think the greatest lesson is from everything that's happening? Because there's always a lesson. There's always a lesson to be learned, even if the house is on fire. We said, okay, who started it? At least we can ask now why. Where did this come from? What do you feel the lesson, one of the biggest lessons from all of this, or the meaning of all of this?
The quality of life matters more than survival. That's the end of it. What is quality of life for you? And that's going to boil down to what you value, what matters to you the most as an individual. Like, what is it that I would have people ask themselves, what is it that I would stand for? What is it I would die for?
Right.
And if you start living for those things, you've got an okay life. And if somebody starts to come in between you in those things, that's when you start to get into the territory of, you might as well risk that in order to stand up for that stuff.
I know you love preparing delicious plant-based foods. Now, there's a lot of talk about how the immune system with the right foods, such as turmeric, it can prevent any virus, any disease. What kind of foods or any health tips can you share with anybody listening right now, how they can protect themselves with just the right plant-based foods? What kind of plant-based regimen are you following right now just to keep the immune system strong and healthy?
Oh God, I'm like, you're asking the like health Nazi here. I'm so annoying. Like, I'm all about that. So for me, I'm just trying to get my hands onto a lot of organic produce. I'm lucky in that where I live right now has a lot of food on the property itself. So we're doing like a lot of soursop. Some people know that as guanabana, right? It's a cancer and like anti-carcinogen, which is really amazing. I've got a lot of mangoes here, so we're doing like a ton of fruit because that's what grows the best. When I'm going into markets, I'm trying to find like greens that are not completely sprayed with pesticide, which is actually really hard to do in Costa Rica, even though you've been told the opposite. It's almost impossible to find organic stuff here. So, but I've been trying. So a lot of my time has been spent doing that. It's about getting a lot of variety into the diet. I feel like that's an underappreciated element to health is just, humans are foragers. We're the kind of beings who eat this insect. Like if you were just to let us naturally be in our environment, it wouldn't even be about farming. We learn how to control the environment to do that. But if you look at what's most healthy for a person, just let them loose and watch what happens if they walk, and the whole time they're walking, they're eating. They're taking in this plant, they're taking in that fruit, they're taking in this nut, they're taking in this insect. And so I'm thinking a lot about how to help myself and my community eat in that way, where we're getting a lot of different building blocks for the body to sustain itself.
I'm seeing similarities between John Lennon's Imagine song and, the current censorship. John Lennon's song Imagine was banned in so many countries when it was first released. They banned it, and that song didn't have any swearing or anything. It's just the reason why they said they banned it was because it made people think. And when I see the censorship, when they're banning people, I realize it's because ideas are dangerous to the powers that be. Because when people are thinking for themselves, then they start to act in a whole new way. And I feel that because people haven't been able to think for themselves, that's why they're in this predicament.
Yep.
What kind of new way, new thought would be the most beneficial for people to have right now, the most empowering thought right now that comes into your mind that anybody can adopt right now that is really going to help them in this situation or this season? Or maybe not help them. Maybe do people need to be helped right now, or do people just need to awaken? Because right now, like we just spoke about, it's not about ignoring about what's happening. It's not about ignoring what is happening and saying, hey, we need to be helped, we need to get out of this. Do we need to get out of this, or is it something we need to awaken to and actually realize what's happening and not keep running away singing kumbaya under a tree and act, and just talk about peace, love, and light?
So, of course my answer is going to be the second. I think the most empowering thought that people could have right now is to understand that free will is an absolute of your existence, and they actually can't take it away. Now, when it's important that I'm saying this right now, because in my childhood, I was with these people who are controlling everything you're looking at today, and what people would have you believe is that it's possible to take away your free will. It's not. It's not. they can put you under pressure, and there's a huge difference. And I need people to awaken to that. And I'm about to get pretty extreme right here in what I say about that. But like, let's say that you were in, because this is why I'm going to go here. You ready? Everything short of this is going to be easier. This is why I'm going real deep. So everything short of that is easy for people. To go real deep, let's say that you had a government official standing in front of you saying, if you continue, you're in jail. I mean, forever, for the rest of your life with no trial. They actually still have not controlled your free will, because you can still choose to comply or not. And what we have been taught over and over again, it's not a position I want anybody to find themselves in, but you still have to get that you have free will. Most of the people throughout history that have ever been, killed, Jesus on the cross, right? What they basically have taught is that all that another person or being can do is put so much pressure on you that you choose with your free will to comply. But that's very powerful to realize, that it will still be a choice on that day. And if you stop saying the words like, they made me, then what actually opens up is a whole new realm of variables you weren't even looking at before, because you were telling yourself the story that they just took it.
Right.
There is no such thing as made you. There is such a thing as somebody putting so much pressure on you that you couldn't even fault somebody for complying.
I say reality is a collective agreement. And that's why it's so important that each of us know our power right now. Every single person on the planet is like a candle. And everyone has the same amount of power if they just wake up and realize that we can all turn this thing around. When we know that we came here to be free. I say being free is your birthright. And I feel that people are in a state of amnesia. They have forgotten how much power they really have. And when I see your frequency painting, I'm in love with it, because you've been creating so much great art for so many years. And when I look at your frequency painting, I'm seeing like it can be interpreted in so many different ways. Like, it's pure art. And I feel that, do you see in your frequency paintings a state of lockdown or quarantine? Because I know that everything that's happening externally can also be mirrored back in nature in a certain reality. And I feel that as above, so below, as they say, as within, so without. Have you ever seen in your frequency painting a state of lockdown or quarantine, just in an expression?
Not in the ones I choose to paint.
Not in the ones you choose to paint. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful, because when I see your paintings, I truly feel it's just a beacon of so much vitality, so much life. And I love that. But I also know that in nature, there are infinite amount of realities, just like the world is experiencing in this one right now. And I feel that people have to be aware of the contrast of reality to realize that the lockdown also existed before they put the lockdown in place. And the quarantine also existed before they put the quarantine in place. These are actual realities everywhere in nature as well. And that's why, it comes from the unseen to the seen realms, So everything externally is also going on in another realm. And I feel
long beforehand.
long beforehand. When you see a lot of artists right now, who's your favorite singer, Teal? I mean, who are you listening to right now? Just as an artist who really gives you hope, who's kind of who you can listen to. Is there anybody that you can tell us about who we should like listen to?
Well, that's the thing. I've been so damn busy creating my own stuff. I haven't been like looking at anything. But in terms of listening to music, Grandizer.
Okay. Do you feel that it's the artist's role to, you had people like Bob Marley back in the day, people like John Lennon, people who were really speaking up, and all their music had like a powerful message. Is it the artist's responsibility to kind of help humanity, or is it just the artist's responsibility to show humanity a reflection of what they're going through? Because sometimes I see these mainstream artists who have like millions of followers on Instagram. I'm like, hey, if they were to say something, they could literally awaken people.
If you get to the point as a mainstream artist where you're in those positions, you're owned, just like a politician is owned. And same if you're in the sports field, they own it all.
Right.
So looking to them for a message is not going to happen because they're just as capped as everyone else is. This is why I like more alternative artists, but I don't see it as an artist's responsibility to do
But do
much.
you feel it's possible for somebody who is
Oh yes.
in the
Oh yeah.
alternative to go mainstream? Because I feel as
No.
well, this is why. So you don't feel it's possible for anybody to go mainstream who hasn't been owned and bought.
Yes. Yeah, because the people who own those platforms make sure that the people who are on there are going to support the narrative they want supported. There's no possible way. And in fact, if you're one of those like non-mainstream artists trying to make it in the mainstream, stop it. Like you got to wake up to the reality. They're only going to let you on that platform if you say what they want you to say, and you're not. So this is why I'm saying that right now is the time for us to create another platform.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. I truly feel that right now, this is the big wake up call. Even those who are asleep were dreaming about. Because I truly feel that right now it's in all of our face. Like Bill Gates was somebody who a lot of people admired. People thought, okay, he's with Warren Buffett. These people, they're tech geniuses. They've helped a lot of people out. But now I see people turning against Bill Gates. He's become one of the most hated people on the planet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there is a true uprising happening on the planet. People are no longer drinking the Kool-Aid. You had Jim Jones in Jamestown giving his whole congregation Kool-Aid. And I feel right now on the planet, people are saying, wait a minute, we don't want the Kool-Aid. Something is not right now. Take back the Kool-Aid. How do you see it?
No, but I can definitely see that that's happening. But what's scaring me is they've done such a good job that sticking us in our own houses that we're actually unaware of how many of us there are that are feeling that way, And that's part of the reason for it. The reason for isolating everybody is so that you're kind of doubting yourself, sitting in this gaslight of like, well, I just feel like there's something off, but I guess everyone else disagrees with me. But it's like almost everyone going, wait a minute,
Right, right. What medium do you feel is the most powerful for you to get a message across? Would you say, because I know you're a Gemini, and Geminis are always writers. The Gemini is the writer. But at the same time, you have such a powerful medium on YouTube
Yeah.
with videos, and also you do the live events. For you personally, which message do you feel, first of all, makes you like most happy? Is it writing? And which message do you feel is the most powerful people can go to right now? Is it making videos? Is it singing? Is it writing articles?
No, it's videos and short videos. That's what frustrates me the most. There's I
Okay.
love writing more than anything, but that's not going to do anything. Like people right now have very short attention spans, and they want something visual and exciting and fast. And that's very difficult when you're trying to convey complex concepts in a 2-minute soundbite, but preferably 30 seconds.
30-second viral videos. People have to get creative right now. People have to get real creative. I agree with you 100%. I truly feel that right now is a time for people to really start to get more creative. We can't all keep doing the same thing we've been doing and expect different results. We have to get in our creative bag. That's what I'm doing, in the up and coming months, to really say, how can I hack the whole matrix? I truly feel people have to become hackers of the matrix. They have to find a way to hack the whole system.
Yeah. Well, if I come up with any grand ideas, I'll probably share them, but I have, yeah.
A lot of the times, people walk around and they feel that the world already ended. And right now we're living in the aftermath. A lot of people, you had films like Zeitgeist in 2012. You had Thrive. You had so many people awakening. And right now it seems that we've actually gone back. We've actually gone back to the Stone Age. In the last couple of months, it seems that people have regressed to a very primitive way of life where you have to queue up at the supermarket. You got to wear gloves and a mask. Why do you feel that humanity is reverting back to the Stone Age right now, when we should be in the age of enlightenment?
It's very easy for me because the methodologies that were presented at that time in 2012 were not integrative philosophies. It taught you about what could be without accounting for what is, and so it was not a philosophy that accommodated physical life for the average person. If you're practicing things like you saw in The Secret, it doesn't it doesn't do much for you because it's like a limited understanding as to how the consciousness functions. For example, like the consciousness of a physical human is split. And so who is creating? Which part of you is creating? That's why you don't all drive Ferraris, even though you've all watched The Secret, right? And what happened when people tried to apply those getting outside, I'm not even in this dimension type of philosophies, is life still hit. Oh, I still don't have a Ferrari. I still just got a woman pregnant. What the hell am I supposed to do now? I still have to pay the bills. And so slowly it was like a little bit of a disillusionment with those philosophies, I feel, because they weren't integrated in the first place. And I feel like a lot of it was suppressed as well, you know?
Now, I know you're a clairvoyant. In your meditations, in your visions, what do you think the future holds for the collective humanity as
Short
of
term,
now, short term and long term?
short term, a lot of pain. Short term, a whole lot more death than we've been seeing. Short term control measures that I'm hopefully people don't completely adopt, that you can't imagine actually at this point in your lifetime. Short term, health being the new form of discrimination. Short term, a massive zero-sum game played against human health. Short term, a lot of pain. Short term, also, a lot of people waking up to the fact that this is not the way that they want to live life. Awakening to what really actually matters and what they're willing to fight for. Long term, the people who are left, stepping into a space of creating exactly what kind of life is healthy for the physical human, which is things like community. We were never meant to live in a single family household. You want to get me started on this? I could write a whole book on this.
Right. Because I remember you always had people in the house, and some people thought that was strange. I remember back in 2012, you used to live with people. And I know you would get a lot of criticism, say, why do you live with so many people? Like, why do you need to live with so many people?
Go ask a single mother. No,
Right.
humanity is not supposed to be fragmented and fractured. And that is what happened. And that has been happening for, so many generations now. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand. By the way, I just barely released a video, or I didn't release it yet. I'm releasing it this Saturday. That's right. I'm releasing a video this Saturday about millennials, because what people don't really understand is that even though there have been other generations who have faced as difficult things, there has never been a generation that has less resources. And what's happening when humanity is becoming fragmented and are no longer living in a tribal-based type of a dynamic is that these children grow up without their needs being met. That's what happens when you withdraw resources. So part of the reason you're seeing so much developmental delay in the average adult millennial is because of those needs that were not met. And so it's like very powerfully what this new earth looks like that we're all going to be choosing once we squarely look in the face what's not working for us, or things like that. We're going to be moving back into tribe, but healthy tribe this time. It's tribe that's not shadow tribe. Shadow tribe is you comply or else you're kicked out. This new way of existing is not going to be like that in the enlightened tribe. But for that to work, obviously, people have to wake up themselves. Because I can tell you
What about schools and education? Because schools are shut down, and some parents are like, "Gosh, my child is going to be behind the curriculum and all of this stuff." How do you see education changing in the up and coming months and years? Are children going to go to school like they used to?
Yes. But that education is going to be a completely different structure. See, this is why I'm saying yes to that. Parents were not actually meant to be teachers. If you have a child in a natural setting, a healthy human, they're getting taught by the people who are the best at that particular skill. So you've got this little kid in a tribe, for example, that's learning how to fasten and make an arrow from this person who's good at making arrows. They're learning how to cook from the person who's good at cooking, right? And then you have a person who's a natural caretaker who's really taking care of these children. And that's not necessarily even the mother or father. So in the future, what's resting here for humanity is this, it's an education system where there will be teachers whose calling and love is to be with kids, working with them. But the whole structure of the way that kids go about learning is going to be different. For example, children, we're going to understand quite quickly that children, it's about 100 times more important for them to learn how to learn than it is for them to learn specific things. And when that starts to happen, they naturally go in the direction of learning what interests them. And those interests fall in alignment very quickly with what their natural aptitude is. And so you're going to see children start to streamline much quicker towards their natural tendencies. Now, I'm not talking about a parent who realizes they've got an athletically gifted kid and throws them in the direction of athleticism, even though they hate it. I'm talking a kid who lives and breathes for athleticism actually gets supported to specialize very early in athleticism.
But do we have to learn or do we have to unlearn? That's the question. Both. Absolutely. Now, I want to ask you this because this might be a big question you haven't heard before. You know, people always say human beings, we're all one. Everything is oneness, okay? You often hear this in the spiritual community. So if everything is one and we're all connected, why would you have a force on the planet who wants to give people vaccinations, who wants to enslave people, who wants to put people in fear? Why would they do that if they are, in essence, reflections of ourselves?
Because just because oneness may be this like more ultimate truth that we're talking about in the universe doesn't mean we're aware of it.
I see.
I mean,
Right, right.
so I'd ask you the question. I'd ask anybody the question. Everyone has had the experience in their individual life where a part of them wants to go to the party and a part of them doesn't. Hello, those two parts of you are in the same body. You can't just go ahead and go to the party and like have the other part of you not get screwed. It got screwed, and by it getting screwed, you got screwed. That's why you don't feel good. So why? Why are you doing it? Because that part is not aware that the other's part of itself. It doesn't own that. You know, your own fragmented psyche doesn't own these other parts as itself. And I find this when I work with the individual elements of a person's psychology. When you talk to a part of them, it looks at the other part of the same body and person and is like, no, that's just it's just stupid and weak. No, it's not me. I wouldn't ever do that. And that's happening inside of us. So of course, the external is reflecting that same mentality. We aren't aware powerfully enough yet that everything is us.
Yes.
So we can't even get, wait a minute, I can't screw that thing without screwing me.
Right, right. And a lot of people right now, they want to be helping other people get out of this. They want to start giving people videos about what's really going on. They want to start enlightening people about the truth of vaccinations. What do you think the best approach to take is? If somebody is just, going about their business, the average Joe Blogs on the street or Rebecca Davis on the street, and you want to help them, what's the best way to help somebody? Is it to give them this information, or is it just to say, hey, I'm not going to say anything at all. They'll figure it out whenever they're ready. Because what I've noticed is the media don't give people a choice. They just pump information into them, whether it's true or not. And I feel that this is the best approach. It's the most effective, obviously. That's why everybody's scared. And I feel a lot of people who are spiritual teachers, a lot of people who are enlightened, sometimes they take the path of just letting go. Let me just let go. And in fact, I find that actually, when you can actually tell someone a raw truth, even though they might criticize you, oppose you, it's going to sow a seed inside of them. Yeah. Down the road, they're going to start to think about what you told them. And I feel that is so powerful. How do you see it?
Yeah, I see that as well. Normally, what I tell people is instead of imposing their ideas or agendas on people, is to figure out what somebody else powerfully wants and do anything you can to help them in the direction of what they're wanting. So it may be more powerful if somebody's having a panic attack about a virus right now to send them a bunch of information about how to strengthen their immune system. Now, it's really beneficial. You can piggyback, by the way, information about how detrimental some of the measures that we're taking right now are to the human immune system inside of that information about the human immune system. So I feel like it's really beneficial to give people that type of information. The thing is like we're getting to a point, right, where my normal advice isn't going to cut it. Stay out of other people's business for the most part in terms of shoving them in the direction you want them to go, and work much more closely with what they're wanting. Even though that still reigns supreme, we're getting to a point right now where we need to sow seeds. So I would say normally you're going to get a lot of pushback if you start to resist people in your life. Right now, sow seeds. Right now, be like, but how about this? So that at least they've got enough information. They may reject it immediately, but it's like you say. I think a lot of people will, if they at least have that information, will start to see things through a little bit of a different lens than what they're looking through right now. And that's pretty important. So
I agree. I truly feel that people right now on the planet have to realize that they are in spiritual warfare. They're in a battle,
Oh
and
yeah.
a big battle, and they're losing. And I feel a lot of people don't realize that humanity is so far behind because they've been separated through religions, through dogmas, through colors, nationalities, and the cabal. They work together. It's bloodlines, it's loyalty. They work together. Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They're all in the same club. And I feel that we can actually take a leaf out of their book to say, actually, we've got to put aside our differences. I truly feel this is one of the solutions so humanity can empower themselves. We have to put aside our petty differences because while we're arguing, they are whooping our ass.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because like it's like only in 2020 in these upcoming years is war going to look different than it is before. I think a lot of people right now they're like, wait, but there's no war going on. There's no battle happening. No, like you're thinking about a battle that used to take place, between World War II and the Vietnam War and in history. It's not going to look that way anymore. Now that we're moving into the realm of technology and biological weaponry and things like this, a war is not going to look the same way that it looked before. So it is very important for people to understand they're in one. They're in the middle of a war. And do you want to know what's really ironic? For those of you that are matrix lovers and understand predictive programming, you're going to like this. Um, if you look at, you remember in Matrix, he shows his ID, right? Neo shows his ID. Do you know when the expiration date for his driver's license was? September 11th, 2001.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yes. Someone pointed
Now,
that out.
what's really interesting is when you look at this timeline potential for humanity. Remember, I said that one of these lifelines is the Third World War, right?
Yes.
When if you look into that life path potential for humanity, World War III is already happening right now. We're in the middle of it. It actually happened with the September 11th attacks. That's when the whole thing kicked off. So the history books, when they're written about this, will say that that's the beginning of the Third World War. So we're actually in it, and people don't even realize it. If that's the timeline that humanity walks down, then what history will say is that we're in World War III right now.
I
You might
agree. I agree 100%. I mean, that's why there's rations right now. I have a joke about toilet roll and pasta. Those were the things which were sold out immediately. Because before this thing happened, I was going to the supermarket and I was like, gosh, why are there people filling their baskets with toilet roll? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's funny how this just seeped into the subconscious mind. People weren't aware that it was going to get as big as it is right now, but people knew that, oh my gosh, it's survival mode. I need to stock up, I need to stock up on toilet roll and pasta. It's like, it just shows you survival is so innate in human beings. Like by any means, we have to survive. I saw people fighting over toilet roll. I saw people fighting over pasta. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I don't know how toilet roll is going to prevent the coronavirus, but that's a whole nother story. But it just shows you where humanity is. It's like, it shows you people want to survive, Teal. People want to live. People want to be alive by any means necessary. People are wearing a mask, not because they want to look silly, but because they want to free themselves. They want to save themselves. They want to make sure they stay alive. Can you talk about the need to be alive? Because it's so prevalent right now on the planet. People are washing their hands 50 times every 10 minutes. Okay? People are wearing a mask. People are doing everything just to stay alive so they don't die. Where is this coming from?
Well, this is the thing is that I don't think people actually care about being alive. To be honest with you, I think they care about not dying, and there's a huge difference.
What is the difference?
Well, to truly live means you have to take risk. To truly live is to account for death as an element of life. What you're watching right now is avoidance. It's this powerful terror that people have to be annihilated. It's that I lose myself. So it is a powerful, aggressive fight for separation, actually, because in death you do lose a separate sense of self. So it's ironic right now, we're talking about how we're all being separated, but we're fighting for it. I mean, powerfully fighting. I want to stay teal. It matters to me to stay teal, right?
Right.
Okay, so what we're really fighting, right, is the loss of selfhood. Self is separate. So we're fighting for separation right now because we perceive oneness to be a loss of some kind instead of a gain.
Right. So this really goes back to, like we said, one of the solutions to empower ourselves is to start creating our own platforms. Because I truly know that Facebook has created the monopoly. You know, they own Instagram, and Google own YouTube. And I truly feel that the more we're on these platforms, they're fantastic, but they're feeding the beast. And I truly feel this is how they get the power they have, where they can just silence people in a few seconds, ban their whole platform, everything they've worked for years. In a few seconds,
Yep.
they say, "Hey, I don't like what you're saying. Bye." And
Yep.
I truly feel that it's only because we've given them our power. Because these people, like Bob Marley said, they don't take a day off. Why should I? These people don't take they never take a day off. And
Yep.
we can say, I mean, they're incredibly wicked in enslaving humanity, but at the same time, they are incredibly smart. They're incredibly intelligent. And I feel a lot of people forget this. You can talk about Bill Gates, about Fauci. These people have forces behind them who are masterminds. They're geniuses. They're wizards. And I feel that people still don't realize that you are dealing with wizards of sorcery who know human being, the psychology of human beings. They're already 100 steps ahead of you, 1,000 steps ahead of you. And I feel
Yep.
people don't really give them the credit for the intelligence they have to pull this off. And say, wait a minute, I need to study that to say, oh my gosh, how the hell did they do that?
Yep. No, I completely agree with you, like 100%. It's just my calling. This is where we get all stuck. It's like there's almost a waiting for somebody to start a platform where that's their jam. My expertise is not starting a technology platform. So it's almost like we're yet again at the mercy of somebody starting a platform. You see?
Right, right. But I truly feel what you're doing, which is so empowering, so amazing, is that you are creating the spark in someone who's listening to your content for years, and they are going to create this new app, which is going to be freedom of speech. So I truly feel we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, but other people have to say, hey, if I'm into technology, I got to start designing my own apps, and where other people can come and have freedom of speech. And I truly feel everybody has to start being and fulfilling the role they came here to fulfill. And then
Which you
everything will get rectified.
and you just brought it full circle. So here's my answer. So right
Yes.
now, like what people need to do is to understand that there's a difference between avoiding death and powerfully living, right? And that's like the major gift in what's happening right now is what is really living to me? Is it sitting in my house? Is it being separated from my fellow men so I can't gather? Is it being on my technology device watching Netflix 24 hours a day? What is living? I want people to powerfully answer that question for themselves and then go in the direction of that, because anything short of that is not worth it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's one of the gifts. People who are severely suicidal, right? Like I was in my youth. That's the gift of that experience, is that you realize like firsthand how important quality of life is. And that if you're not 100% committed to creating that quality of life, it's not going to happen. You can't sit on the fence waiting for somebody to hand you that life.
You've come
But
out of trauma. You've come out of trauma. So many horrific things have happened to you. What would you tell someone right now who's traumatized from this lockdown experience, as somebody who's also been a victim of trauma yourself? Like, because a lot of people aren't going to feel the effects until years down the line. I can only imagine that 5 years from now, people are going to have all kind of illnesses and mental conditions just because of the lockdown. People aren't going to be fully functioning human beings. So right now, is there anything that people can do to kind of begin to heal themselves from the trauma that they're going through right now? Because a lot of people who are being traumatized, when it's happening, they don't know anything. They don't know what to do about it. They don't know any solutions. You
you know
know,
what's it? I actually just did a whole e-course on this. I did an e-course called How to Thrive in a Crisis. And if you really want to sum up what the whole course is about, it's like in the midst of what's going on, how do you deal with the trauma of it as it's occurring, right? So there's like some, I mean, obviously that course goes way deeper into like a lot more of a thorough understanding than I can just share right here. But I mean, even people who are averse to dealing with emotions in the way that I'm suggesting in that e-course, which is you've got to feel your emotions. You can't stuff it down and try to like make everything okay and bypass, right? You got to work with the very powerful emotions that are coming up as if each one represents a personal truth, and learn how to express those emotions. Learning how to caretake emotions can only happen once you're powerfully acknowledging the emotion that exists and figuring out what need is represented by that particular emotion and finding intelligent ways to respond to that emotion in a way where you meet those needs. But one of the things people can do if they have aversion to even emotions is there's this doctor who created the trauma release exercises, and I've actually seen great work with that myself, and would highly suggest that to people. I think his name is Dr. Berselli. I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah, but like I've seen profound work with people who apply that. Like right now, all of us are feeling terrified. If you just start doing these exercises when you feel like you need to, like a range of physical movements to induce shaking that I love working with that particular technique with people who have experienced trauma or in the midst of trauma. It was actually I believe his technique was created specifically for people who didn't have access to therapists, who are like in war-torn areas or like suffering from natural disaster. We can't like take that person in third world country and be like, oh, let's sit down and talk about it every week for $100 an hour. So it was basically a way of trying to get their nervous system out of this shock type of a dynamic. And I love those. So like that's a fast thing that people can do. They can do things like when you're in the middle of a trauma, it's really important to make choices that buoy your emotional state and your physical state. And most people aren't thinking about that. I mean, right now it's just like, I'm really depressed. I can eat a whole thing of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. But actually, when you're going through a trauma, it's like you have less of a buffer to deal with than most people do. So, and this goes for this trauma, but it also goes for if somebody's experiencing any trauma, like a divorce or whatever. You really can't afford to not go to sleep on time right now. You can't afford to be eating that thing that you know is going to make you feel like crap later. You got to be making choices that simultaneously ground you and buoy you to the surface. So those are just 3 really fast off the head type of deals that people can apply if they're going through trauma right now.
How do you think this would affect relationships? A lot of people right now, you're having a huge rise in domestic violence. Why is it that when people are together, they're getting into fights? Like, has this been like a blessing in disguise to reveal people's shadows to each other when they're in close proximity to each other, that now they're actually seeing people for who they are when they're in the house with them all day? Oh my gosh, I can't take it. I need to get out of the house with them. That's why I go to work, to get away from them in the first place.
Human beings are not in relationship. I don't think we get this. Like, you're not having relationships, you guys. Like you're not, I feel like a lot of people think they're in a relationship just because they say this is my girlfriend or my wife. Just because you're saying those words doesn't mean you know this person, doesn't mean you're intimate with this person, doesn't mean you're compatible with this person. And we've created a society that's so complex that you can actually afford to be with a super incompatible partner. And like now you can't, you know what I mean? You get dropped into the middle of it and it's like, guess what? Before, when you used to run away to the bar instead of deal with it, you can't do that anymore. So a lot of people are realizing, actually, I don't even like the person that I'm with. Actually, I have no idea how to resolve conflict. We just go our separate ways and then put it off another day, So
Yes.
It's like a blessing and a curse. I mean, it's sad that everyone's relationships are breaking apart, but not only is this a perfect time to learn relationships, you got to realize those relationships weren't really relationships. They were living arrangements. And there's a big difference.
I gotta do a slow motion. Slow motion this side. Because I truly realize what you're saying is so true. I truly feel that a lot of people never had relationships. And a lot of people, I call them relationships of convenience.
Yep.
You're going out with someone, even you're married to someone, but you're going to work, you're doing everything to get away from that person. You only have 15 minutes with them, and then it's business as usual tomorrow. So I truly feel that people are starting to realize, actually, we never even had anything to begin with in the first place.
Yep.
And I think this is more exposing people's relationships than harming them.
Yep. Exactly. I think so. It's exposing what is. Yeah. It makes me sad because there are so many people that are trapped, so many children right now that are trapped in houses with people who should never have children.
Right. A lot of people are going through it. A lot of children are going through it. A lot of children are stuck at home. School was the only way where they could actually get some support from their teachers, and now they're stuck with abusive parents.
Yeah, that's another thing too. It's another narrative I'm sick of, by the way. If you want me to rant for one more minute, I'm super sick of this. The narrative that's driving me nuts around school right now is like, well, because of technology, our teachers can contact their children. Oh yeah, what demographic are you talking about? Because you know how many children do not have access to the technology that now is required for them to be in contact with their schools? So that's another one of those, like, people at a certain right now, what's interesting to me, and it's also frustrating to me, but needs to be paid attention to, is just how extreme the stratus within society has been. It's like we've gone backwards as a human race to the stratification of humanity in terms of the haves and have-nots. That gap between them is getting so much wider, and it's only going to get wider still. A lot of the gap that was trying to be closed between men and women, that's being destroyed right now. More women are losing their jobs than men. I mean, it's like we're going back in time. So it's pretty interesting to watch the stratification within humanity, and that's like that applies to this situation I'm giving you relative to the experience that children in poverty are having versus children who are not. And like, even when the government goes in and says things like social distance, yeah, good luck doing that when you're in the inner city neighborhood.
Right, absolutely. A lot of
Even that,
people, a lot of people have said this, that they've said that everything right now that's been happening has already been prophesied in the Bible and in the Quran and in all of these spiritual books. They've already always warned that there would be an apocalypse and end of days coming. Do you truly feel that? Two questions. Okay, do you truly feel that the people who ever wrote these books knew what was around the corner 2,000 years down the line? And the other question I have for you is, you have so much wisdom from all of these spiritual books for thousands of years, but humanity is in the same predicament. It's like all the gurus. You had Krishnamurti, you had Osho. I mean, there is not going to get a better guru than Osho or Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti was like so kind of, you know, like he had the perfect teachings. Osho is, they had like so many great teachings, and these people came, and yet humanity is still in shit. It's like nobody listened to what the hell they were talking about. So is it going to even make a difference, like people getting on their soapbox talking about what's going on, if you had people like Osho, Krishnamurti, all of these great sages in India, like giving humanity, like every single day, dedicating their whole life to teaching people, and humanity is still in a crisis?
yes, it still matters. I feel like it's still important for people to be getting on these soapboxes for the people who do, are going to benefit by that. But humanity is very large. And what we have succeeded at doing as a species is making ourselves just comfortable enough to have to avoid, change. So it's ironic, because it's almost like you're answering the question by asking the question. Um, these people throughout history who have predicted this, of course they saw what was coming, but not because they were, all of them, some of them were, not because all of them were incredible soothsayers and saw beyond into the Akashic. It takes a psychologist only, somebody who's trained, and I'm talking to somebody who is trained in a mainstream school. It takes a psychologist trained in a mainstream school to be able to predict human behavior. Now, if you can predict human behavior, you can predict the behavior of humanity. And then you can act like a psychic all day long. Because you understand that if A happens to human, B happens, then C happens. That's the end of it. You can just you can tell the future based off of how humans behave. So it's like down to basic psychology.
Right. We often talk of the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of people love to always make a bad thing into a good thing. Should we be doing that right now, or should we just be really feeling what is happening? Because a lot of people just want to be in such a good mood right now. Like, hey, don't worry about it. Let's go out. Let's celebrate. Or should we actually be just feeling what is happening and going through the whole process? Is this a greater part of our healing, to actually feel what's happening? Not try and escape by just listening to music and dancing and acting like it's not affecting me. I'm okay.
You know what I'm going to say to that.
Right.
For me, it's a 1-2 step, It's like, you gotta know where you are to know where you're going. And if you're trying to get there as fast as you can, you run the risk of bypassing. So the first step is to powerfully be with what is happening. To really sit with those waves as they come through you completely and get the reality of it. And based off of that, you let that dictate what direction you're gonna go. So powerfully based off of realizing where I am, I'm realizing what I'm wanting, and then I'm gonna go in the direction of that. But it's not a resistant state. That's what I want people to get. If you're in a state of conscious creation, it's not so that I cannot have that. So it's not like if somebody walks through your door and is like, all right, this is really bumming me out right now. This is horrible. Do you see that everybody's being separated? The answer, if you're in a conscious creation space, isn't going to be, don't hand me that clay right now because I can't mold it into what I want. I'm doing my own thing right now. It's an energy of like, well, okay, I'll take that. Now let me work with it and I'm going to change it. So it's non-resistant in nature when you're in pure creation.
Well,
When you're in
because
the
a
creation.
lot of people always ask, because I always say you turn into whatever you're tuning into. Now, if people don't watch the news, they'll say, well, I'm misinformed. If people do watch the news, then they'll say, well, I'm afraid. So it's like, what are people supposed to be tuning into? Like, if they don't tune into the news, they don't even, then they're like living in another dimension. Then they're being inconsiderate to what's actually
Well,
going on. If they do watch the news, then they're actually helping create the reality the cabal wants. So what are people supposed to be tuning into every single day? Should they be watching Donald Trump's update every single day?
why not? I mean, like you can. That's going to be a personal answer, but here's my thing. I believe that humanity, part of this new awakening that we're in, is that humanity is getting to the point where our consciousness is being able to expand wide enough to hold it all. What I mean by that
Yes.
is, should we be looking at the positives that are happening in the situation? Hell yeah. Should you be looking at what this economic expert is predicting in terms of the worst financial collapse ever seen by humanity? Yes. Like humans have to have the capacity to absorb all of those viewpoints so as to arrive with this objective perspective. So we're in the process of being stretched to hold dichotomy, stretched to hold the multiplicity of truths, and out of those to find, to weave together what the objective picture is, because an objective perspective is actually the amalgamation of all subjective perspectives. So I would say it's important to listen to everybody. And part of listening to everybody is to see where everyone's coming from as well, like follow the money,
Yes.
pretty critical right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everything has come full circle. I want to thank you so much, Teal, for diving deep on Infinite Waters. And you are phenomenal, being a good friend. And what is the last message you can leave with deep divers and also the Teal tribe, and also everybody else who's watching? A lot of people are going to watch this video. A lot of people are going to watch it. What is the message to humanity? The most important message? No fluff stuff, just the most important message everybody, 7.5 billion people on the planet, need to hear right now.
But you have got to see what is going on here. And what is going on here is a power grab. And like, you've got to figure out how much of that power grab you are willing to be a part of. You need to keep your eyes way the hell open, because a lot of the things that you're being told is happening for your own good is not for your own good, it's for their good. And the question is why? Why is this in their best interests? And what does that spell for the future and where we're headed? What am I going to say yes to? That's a very powerful question that we need to be asking ourselves right now. Now, given the awareness of what's actually happening, which isn't good right now, you guys, it's not good. What do I want? What is this showing me that I want? That's the most powerful question, and this applies to all moments of a human's life, not just this one that we find ourselves in at this crux or crossroads. In this moment, everything you're watching is showing you what you don't want. If you're able to pivot and say, what does that powerfully let me know that I do want? And how can I go in the direction of that? And how can I get people on board with going in that direction so that, I'm more powerful than just one person, so that it's a collective of people that are collaborating towards whatever creation? And then pouring your energy on a daily basis into that. What actions can I take? Let's say that you're one of these people who's like, all right, I'm adhering to social distancing and I'm stuck in my house right now. Once you're aware of what you do want, what ways can you go in the direction of that? We got to start to find these windows and doors that might be open there in the direction of what it is that we're wanting to create. And so right now, right now, the slate is clean for humanity. It's like, I want you to think of this like the cards are up in the air and they haven't fallen yet. And yeah, you're at square one because you're going to have to rebuild that whole house. What do you want that house to look like? Because you've been complaining about elements of that house for a great many years.
I want to thank you so much for diving deep with us. Till, you are really such a divine being. We all are divine. And I feel that what you're doing is brave, putting yourself out there. You've been doing this a long time, and I feel that people have attacked you. They've had to go at you, but you always have my support on Infinite Waters, because I truly feel they've banned David Icke. David Icke was a very powerful force for even getting people to think. I don't agree with everything he has to say, but they shouldn't. I fight for everybody's freedom of speech. And what you're doing is phenomenal. Keep it going, keep doing it. And we are the resistance. We are the force to be reckoned with, and we are the ones that's going to change all of this. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody is coming to save us. Shout out to Teal Swan. I think it. Yes. Shout out to Teal Swan. I think the. Okay, hold on a second. Let me bring back Teal. Shout out to everybody in the chat, deep divers. You are appreciated. Hello? Let me just see. Okay. Shout out to everybody who's been diving deep. Okay. Let me just, while I get Teal back, but we did the whole show. Shout out to everybody who's been diving deep. I appreciate everybody right now. We just did a mega. This is one of the best shows, deep divers. Oh my gosh. I'm so thankful for Teal to come on Infinite Waters, to really dive with us, to really bless us. And deep divers, like I told you, we are the ones we are waiting for. Okay, shout out to Teal. We are the ones we are waiting for, deep divers. I want you to remind yourself every single day, do not feel that you are powerless, deep divers. Always feel that you are powerful beyond measure. Always know how powerful you are every single day. We are the power. We are the blood of the system, deep divers. I told you. We run the system. We run the system, deep divers. How is everybody liking the stream, deep divers? You know, I'm just woo, breathing in that good ass prana, baby. But I want you to remind yourself, deep divers, we are the ones who are going to turn this thing around. Teal has just blessed us on Infinite Waters. Over 2 hours of straight knowledge. Deep divers, I'm going to have to listen to this one again. Oh, baby. Teal has just really showed us all that we all, deep divers, we all need to start realizing every single day that it's on us right now. We have to create our own platforms. We have to start teaching our own children. We have to start eating better. Okay, nobody's going to do it for us. We just had a mega beautiful show, deep divers. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. Oh, the chat room is packed. The live stream is packed. It's lit, deep divers. Oh my gosh. Shout out to Teal Swan. And you can check out more of Teal's work at tealswan.com. Okay. Check out her website. And we did the whole live stream, deep divers. I want to remind you that right now, you have to free yourself. You have to remind yourself being free is your birthright every single day. Being free is the secret right now. So how did you enjoy the show, deep divers? I hope you did. I hope everybody is well right now. Deep divers off planet Earth, the stream is out. We will be back. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. One love to you. I'll be back. Thank you so much. Stay well, stay healthy. Peace.